We've been doing these for about 1.5 years and have had great success. And I'm super excited about this one today. The AI-driven channel is one of the hottest topics in the industry. I'm Teresa Caravel, the CEO of AchieveUnite. And I'm actually just going to open and close the session today because we have a resident expert on AI at AchieveUnite, Jessica Baker. So she's going to be hosting our amazing guests that are also doing some incredible things in AI today. So Jessica, why don't you introduce yourself and why you're so passionate about AI, and then take to your guests.
Yeah, thanks, Teresa. Hi, everyone. Jessica Baker, Chief Program Officer at AchieveUnite. I am definitely all about AI. I'm definitely a tech nerd at heart. And so as a lot of this started to come on the scene with the ChatGPT right earlier this year, and people really started to try to figure out how we were going to apply this to our daily lives, our businesses, how we run our business, how we run our daily lives, I got really interested in it. And so since then, I've been sort of on a side quest learning all about AI, how that's going to affect the business of the channel, how it's going to affect business and how we run our business, how we interact with people, how we build trust with people, and all sorts of things like that. So we're going to dive into a few of these things here today. So let me introduce the panel that we've got. I'll start with Harbinder.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, Jessica, for having me on this conference call today. My name is Harbinder Khera, founder, CEO of Mind Matrix. This is the company I started 25 years ago, and we're in the partner enablement space.
Wonderful. And Jeff?
Yeah, hey, thanks for including me today. I'm Jeff Taylor. I work for Lenovo, and I'm part of our global channel organization.
And Daniel?
Hey, Jessica, hey, Teresa, thank you for having me on the meeting today. I'm Daniel Nissan. I'm the founder and CEO of Structured Web, and we're a channel marketing automation platform.
Wonderful.
See,
Thanks,
I lied that I was going to be quiet, Jess, of course.
Yeah.
Because Jeff was way too humble in how he introduced himself. And he is here because he is one of the most forward thinkers in the tech channel. And so he's here. And Harbinder and Daniel are doing this incredible work with AI in their platforms, right? So that's why you and I wanted them on the call. Now I'll be quiet, I promise. Maybe.
Okay. So we are going to talk, because AI has been around for a very long time, right? We're talking specifically about generative AI, how that is going to impact the way that we do business now. So let's talk about that state. Maybe, Jeff, you could start us off by, how are you using this generative AI in your business today?
Yes. Well, Lenovo overall, obviously, we're a very big company. And so kind of first and foremost, we're enabling our customers and partners to use generative AI through our products and solutions and things like that. Sorry for the commercial. But specifically in terms of my world and kind of the channel management world, we're definitely using things like ChatGPT and large language modules like that to support things like content creation. Probably more interesting are things like partner segmentation, partner analytics, even some predictive modeling for things like lead gen, and arming our own salespeople with better insights into opportunities that either our partners may have or that our partners may have with their customers, which is where it gets really interesting. We're also kicking around ideas around almost like the reimagination of things like our partner portal, going from being very, very kind of structured, kind of normal, to one that's more concierge based, more on-demand type of content. So some pretty forward-looking things as well.
So Harbinder, I'll let you chime in here from a platform perspective. How is AI, this generative AI, working into your platform?
Sure. Jessica, can I take an opportunity to really talk about this whole AI, ML, and deep learning generative AI? Because I think for our audience today, it's very important for them to understand, for Mind Matrix, we've been in AI business doing AI stuff for the last 4 or 5 years. Now, if you think about the landscape of AI, so we hear about, we heard about ML. That was machine learning. That technology has been there for a very long time. And typically companies like ourselves, we have used this for recommendation engine. Using that as a recommendation engine, you can use that as a predictive engine. And this technology, ML, is based on linear regression, mathematical modeling, so that you can use to do predict and recommend stuff. And you can use this technology based on limited data set. So if I have content that I want to recommend, then I'm using the data set that I have. Okay. Now, if you look at the evolution, we got into this LLM business, and this requires a huge data set that is built on neural networks.
Right.
That's how our brain operates, layers of neurons talking from input and output layer. Now, this has opened up new opportunities and avenues for all of us. And that is the conversation that we're having today about generative AI. Okay. Now, I want audience, since this technology is available, that doesn't mean that we should try to solve every problem with ChatGPT or generative LLM models. This is like shooting a bird with a bazooka.
Yeah.
So it is very, very important for everybody to understand, where do you use LLM? Where do you use your own private setting of LLM, or we use the traditional ML technology to solve your business problem?
Got it.
Okay. And that is something very, very important, because there's so much stuff out there. And so understanding what works well, what doesn't work well, depending upon the type of application that you have, that you're trying to process.
There's a tool for every job. Yes, for sure.
So that's, and I want to add one more thing on AI for everybody to understand, what is the difference between AI and traditional programming? Why do we need AI? So when people think about AI, so when you think about traditional programming, so you can write multiple if then else statements. For every condition that happens, you'd write an if then else statement. In programming, you'd modify your query language and database query. That's the traditional way of programming. Everything is in code. Imagine the rules are not in code, but actually in the data. Data defines the rules. And that's the evolution of AI, where the data set, the rules sit in the data set. So that has transformed the world we live today.
Where we are today. Yeah. So I think this how we're using this, or how we're talking about AI, generative AI here today, I think will have some big implications on partner management and how we enable our partners and what we allow them to do and how we engage with them. Daniel, maybe you'd like to comment a little bit about how your platform is working with those partners and how you're putting this technology to use for them.
Yeah. So as Harvinder said, the large language model, or general purpose model that can comprehend any text, can understand text, and can give you back a response. So it can be used for analyzing data. You can take a report, send it to the model, and ask some questions about the report. You can take an MDF document and rules and ask questions instead of reading through the document or brand guide. What we do in our platform, we're starting very basic steps and bringing what we feel the market is ready to start using now. For example, modifying content. If I get a generic campaign from a vendor and I'm a channel partner and I'm selling to a specific industry like legal, pharmaceutical, transportation, I need to modify the story a bit so my audience will understand the product value in their context better. So we're introduced Channel GPT, which is our AI product based on some standard model for OpenAI and Google Vertex. So we're not inventing the underlying technology, but we enable partners with a simple steps to say, take this email, take this campaign, take this social content, and personalize it to my target market. Incorporate my message into that, my value proposition. Some partners want to take the branding out of the campaign initially and make it more solution-based campaign instead of vendor or product-based campaign. With a click and a few instructions, you can get it right from the user interface. So it's really the ability to take content, modify it, and add to it a specific story to the market. Second phase will be actually generating content. So to comprehend all the product marketing from a vendor and then give partners and vendors easy way to create content from scratch based on corporate marketing, channelizing it and bringing it to the audience they need to cater to. Again, with simple requests, no need to know AI or machine learning technology. Just go online, ask, I need an email about this product, targeting this market and emphasize these pain points. You click, you wait 30 seconds to a minute, and the campaign is ready.
And it's done. Yeah. So this will have a big impact on how we interact with our partners, right? So, Jeff, in the context of engagement with our partners, how will this really affect, how the people that are responsible for the relationships with the vendors, the day-to-day, or the partners, the day-to-day management? How do you think this is going to affect what they do on a day-to-day basis?
I think right now where we are, a lot of people go straight to kind of the content marketing piece of it, and certainly there's advantages there. I think what's interesting is kind of playing the chess match out a couple of steps. So today, when we think about generative AI, it's somewhat task oriented, right? You hear all the stories about give a question prompt and it comes back with an essay or whatever the case may be, and that's interesting. But what's, I think, more interesting is when it becomes less around the task and actually gets embedded into the workflows.
Right.
And a great way someone explained it to me, because I'm not as technical as our other guests here, is today we can use LLM to go get a recipe as an example. So that's a task-oriented type of thing. But if you want to work it into the workflows, I think it's interesting if, you can get the recipe, but then it'll also inventory your refrigerator. It'll place an order at a grocery store. It'll preheat your oven, right? It extends into a workflow. So if you extend that out to the channel itself, think about the ways in which we do channel management, channel inventory, those types of things, how you create incentive programs around very real work streams that are being generative on, not even on demand, but they're just generating because of the available data for you. And then you couple that with the content piece and being able to build not just content, but fully integrated campaigns through these work streams. I think it becomes super exciting about the efficiencies that you can get in terms of working with your partners and through your partners, and then ultimately the way that they interact with our customers.
I think about some of the traditional processes that we have with partners. Take, for example, deal registration. That's a pretty common one.
Everyone loves deal registration, Jessica.
Everybody loves it. It's been around for a very long time. I don't think it's going anywhere, but it might evolve, right? Anybody have a comment on how like a traditional work stream like deal registration might be changed with AI?
Yeah, maybe the deal registration itself, submitting the basic information about the deal will be very similar. Or maybe you write it down and then it will generate the record in the system. But it's more now how you manage the deal. Think about that AI can now understand the deal, understand the target customers, their situation, the product, and prepare a whole set of communication materials for the salesperson to handle the deal, right? This is something that we already do with Vartopia and Zoom, that leveraging that to cater to each salesperson with the information they need on the fly. Custom story for each user based on the target market and the problem that the salesperson reported as part of the deal registration.
So let me add to that. So a couple of things on the deal rate, since you brought this up. There are innovative ways of registering a deal. Think about email, sending an email, because think about what is the biggest hiccup today. People have to log into the portal. They have to go through multiple levels of screens to figure out a deal reg button and go through that process. Imagine you can just send an email as a deal reg at lenovo.com, knows your domain, who is sending it, knows everything about you. You can put all the unstructured data in an email. The system knows it, reads the unstructured data, converts into a structured format. You're done.
Yeah,
it sends you a verification that you indeed the person verifies it. Say, yep. So again, it's a one way that you can, again, going back to what Jeff talked about, workflows. Yep. So including this technology in the workflow if you can help automate it, streamline it, that's really where we see technologies like LLM coming into play.
Yeah, if I can just add to that a little bit, Harbinder, the frustration that I hear from partners around deal reg usually centers around time. It takes so long to get reviewed and approved. And the other one is there's a human element attached to it. At the end of the day, our process today, somebody has to approve or decline that request for protection. So what changes here is time. That's what Harbinder was talking about. Instead of days, in some cases weeks, it could be minutes or seconds for the approval. And assuming that the data sets are where they need to be, you can eliminate or greatly reduce the need for a human approval in that process. Everything's data driven. It creates equity in the process that maybe some people challenge today. Things like that can certainly enhance the way traditionally we've all done deal registration.
Yeah, but I think the biggest impact of generative AI at the moment for partners is their ability to go to a customer, collect their information, understand their needs, and send a problem, and then go back to the vendors, whatever system they use, and use that to process that information and get recommendation, get a direction to the right product, get direction to the right solution, maybe find alliances vendors they need to work with to create that. So the human interface, partners to the customers and partner to the vendor, would be much better interface because people have faster access to information, the ability to really spend more time with the customer, listen to the customers, understand the problem and go deeper into the problem and find a solution, and not investing time in searching documents and reading manuals and processing information in a very non-scalable way. So I think partners will become more effective and more impactful on the business of their customers that way. And through that, of course, will impact the vendor success with those end customers.
Yeah, and I think
I'm sorry. Just one other thing. Like, you can add value to deal registration as well. So things that we're not doing today, or at least not efficiently, is you take the concept of ABM, account-based marketing, and you say, okay, this deal reg has been approved, and that triggers a set of activities, right? That now start to affect other work streams and things like that. So a lot of this stuff can be integrated.
To your point about, the chess moves, you have to think 2 or 3 moves ahead. What you just hit the nail on the head, right? If somebody is registering or is an opportunity for product X, like, you can start to be really smart about how you start feeding that partner information, everything from marketing to training to all that kind of stuff. It becomes very specific to what they're dealing with right now. So it becomes very just in time, and they become very invested in consuming that data, right? So it's no longer like the spray and pray kind of mentality. We can make everything hyper ABM, very hyper to what they're interested in. Yeah.
Allison just brought up a comment, Jess, on who is also Allison Bergamo is really smart in the AI arena, and she just said, "What about using AI tools to predict next deal opportunities for partners, so that you could start to build solutions of the future? Oh, they did this, but the 10 other things that they could do with you."
So there's been a process that we've used for a long time, but it's cumbersome. It's founded on this notion of RFM, recency, frequency, and monetary value, where we take historical data to predict, but it's cumbersome. Like, it takes time and it's not as fast as you'd like. So now you take things like AI and you make that more of a dynamic process that you integrate into things like PRM and CRM. I'm sure Harbinder can elaborate quite a bit there, but those types of things are becoming very, very real for sure.
So I would add one thing. When you think about, this is what I talked about: recommendation engine, predictive engine, conversational AI, then generative AI. So if you think about all these different types of use cases, for predictive, you really don't need an LLM model, because it is based on your ecosystem of data, unless, like social media, you're thinking about harnessing all the partner data out there and then making a decision. So for an enterprise use cases, so it's very important to build your own personalized enterprise LLM that is running based on your own domain data. And so for Mind Matrix, we've been, as I said, we've been doing for the last 4 or 5 years. And we started to look at how you automate, as Danielle talked about, generative AI, especially in the marketing side. Social post, the big part is how you provide prompts, editor, to the partners. So they give them a guideline that this is how the prompts you got to utilize. But the other area is that from our perspective, looking at partner profiling. How do you scale up partner profiling at scale? So partner attributes is so much of unstructured data on the partner sitting out there, bringing that in. So this is really, you start drawing the distinction. Should I use ChatGPT or Bard? Because the Bard data is the most up to date, where the ChatGPT is a couple of years old. So we have played with different models just to see which works well. The other important aspect, which is kind of, I see the big issue that I want everybody to think about. For the last 4 or 5 months when the ChatGPT came, we were kind of more focused on security and the privacy of customer data. What data could be pushed out or not pushed out, and validating what works well. And what is the safest out of all this stuff was happened to be marketing. So marketing, you're not revealing too much of your client data out there, but also having the guardrails. If you put something into the platform, we don't want people accidentally exposing some of the customer data into the stuff. Okay. So tightening up the prompts, what you can ask the system, and having those guardrails, making that available to the partners, that's the key. So for predictive, I would traditionally use the traditional ML model, not just go with the LLM, unless you have a data set of all the partners in the ecosystem.
Yeah. I think the opportunity for some really deep business insights is there with your own model, right? You can start to feed it a lot of different data sources, unstructured, structured, differently structured, right? And it will learn, and you'll be able to ask questions of your model and get some returns. Who are my top partners in this product, in this geography? Who has the certified resources? Like, some of those things become really interesting in the management of a channel program or a channel practice, right?
Correct.
Any comment on that, Daniel?
Yeah, you can actually use structured data, which we all like reports, right? But in order to analyze a report, you have to go and read through them. You need to look at the numbers. You need to look at changes and trends in the reports, which could consume a lot of time for the partners to do so. With generative AI, you can take the structured data and actually write the commentary by looking at the data and say, what changed? What are the opportunities? Where are you growing? Where are you shrinking? Where other partners are doing well? And send a very short summary to the partner, right? But not as a report, but a live document. So the partner can now continue and have a conversation with the document about the report that they have. So it's quite different the way we're going to interact with the data, right? It's not anymore static data. Harbinder to talk about deal registration to do it through email. Take it another step forward, just do it through a chat tool, a live chat, WhatsApp, Messenger, and others. And now you have two-way interaction. So you send the information about this deal reg. Oh, something is missing. You get right away from the system. Oh, we need also the size of the customer. We need also the industry of the customer to complete the deal registration. So now you have a conversation that is done through a generative AI model that can analyze data, comprehend data, and kind of have a conversation with you in the way you'd like to converse with the system. And a process, not a linear process, but a process that is more human nature, to ask questions, to get information back. Based on the information you got back, you can ask follow-up questions, and it's much more natural to do it and more effective and faster for people to interact that way.
So let's talk about adoption and trust, right? Because, for somebody to really put their belief that I can send an email and it's going to be registered and approved and it's going to happen, like, they could see that outcome. But if they're going to start making some strategic decisions on the outputs that they get based on the data that you provide, one, they have to really trust you as an individual, as a business, in order to really trust that data. So while we're talking about a very technical concept, I think the actual application has a lot to do with who's doing it and how we're doing and how we're building trust within the vendor to partner to customer relationships. Any comment about that?
I'm going to add about this whole trust, because there was an article, if a ChatGPT gives you a wrong result, you can't sue ChatGPT. You can go after ChatGPT and say, hey, you're responsible. You gave me the wrong data. Okay. And that is really one of the important things. Just to give you an example, coming back to the trust, one of our business units, we do lease abstraction. We go through the documents, summarizes all what's in a lease and a clause, and actually contract. Now, we built our own tool, then the ChatGPT came and started to do things better. Okay. And so we realized that, yes, there's something that ChatGPT can do, but the customers were looking for 100% accuracy, and they can go after somebody if the data is incorrect. Even if some of the stuff they could do on ChatGPT, they still continue to give business and say, because they want a 2-level quality check, 100% assurance, because that's where the humans come and play an important role.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you think about AI, it's not a replacement. It is enhancing, and it's a more a productivity tool, and again, so that's really where the future, in my mind, ChatGPT is great, has opened up this public LLM models to everybody in the world to start using it. I personally see where you have enterprise level LLMs, that's just something you control, Lenovo or any company, you teach, educate, and you have a lot more controls and have guardrails what gets spit out of the system. Okay, that's really, and if you look at AWS, followed a different model than Google and Microsoft. They're giving you tool sets that you can build your own LLMs at your own enterprise level. So trust is important. Doesn't matter. At the end, the humans got to be there.
Yeah, it's also to understand what the tool is designed to do and what's the purpose of that. So ChatGPT was introduced as an experiment to let people use the model underneath that, which is the OpenAI large language model. It's not a search engine. That's something that people have misconception about it. It's a language model. It's a language model that can guess what is the next best word to complete to continue your sentence. So it might provide incorrect information sometimes. It might not check the facts in most cases. And that's why when you ask it about things that even you fictional think, it will still provide you information. But if you understand the underlying technology and put it in the right application, for example, the input of data that it receives in order to generate the content, validation of that, even in some cases add a human interface that validate the results before they go to the next level, building the right workflow process is required by different technology vendors, and then also assure that this technology is reliable, both from processing the data, retrieving the data, data safety and security, not different than if you use an accounting system or a deal registration system or others. You need to trust the technology vendor or whoever built the process, that the process is reliable and can be trusted.
Yeah, I think in my view, there's a couple of things. So there's a lot of debate as to whether or not there should be provenance around some of this output, meaning should ChatGPT, should others cite their sources?
Yeah.
So there's some questions about that. Certainly within a defined customer base like us, I mean, I think that provides a level of comfort and authenticity and transparency to the people that are on the receiving end of that. I think the other thing is the data sets can be quite massive. And so kind of narrowing that data set around specific domains or verticals, as an example, can get you better results. So if you're very specific on healthcare or on education or whatever, you can see kind of a vertical application there. The last piece around trust is these things are pretty cool. And I know we've all played with them, but there's a human element that's missing. Like there's no emotion, there's no contextual framework around these models yet. And so, it's not prudent for anybody to go out and take content that's generated out of this technology without layering in some human elements to it. So this isn't replacing people. So that kind of human element that the machines just, they're not there, is important in the manner in which we build relationships and communicate with the people we want to communicate to.
This just becomes another tool, like a calculator. This becomes a way to be able to get to the end. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Microsoft picked up the best term for that. They call it Copilot. And I think
Yeah.
at this stage, there is no better term to define this tool. Is somebody there skilled enough to be your Copilot? They're not the pilot. They're the Copilot. You're still responsible. You're still in charge, but they can assist you with many tasks that you cannot do on your own, or that you can delegate to them and focus on the most important part in your job.
Allows us to go to the next level.
Yep.
So it'll be very interesting to see
Or go to the beach.
Yeah, or go
I'm with you.
It'll be very interesting to see how this plays out over the next 6, 12, 18 months. I think it's going to go pretty fast and it's going to be pretty interesting. So I thank you all very much for joining us today for this discussion. Teresa, do you have any final words?
Great job. I think just encourage each other to innovate together and share your innovations. And maybe, Jess, we can have a LinkedIn ongoing post going around this. So as we have new ideas, people are sharing with one another. And great job, Daniel, Jeff, Harbinder. Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
It was a pleasure.
Thanks.
Great job, guys. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.